So appreciative of all the folks staying up late or getting up early to join us. Oh, 3 a.m. Bless you, Ruth. And I thought I was being early today. You want to share anything about a small skill or an activity that you do well? We'll be folding paper planes today. So, so maybe that's one of the activities you do well. But feel free to let us know something that you're passionate about. And who am I? I am Maren Vernon. I am the Scratch Learning Resource Designer. You can find me on Scratch under Algorithmer or under Scratchly Catterton, which if you follow any of our YouTube tutorials, that's the account I use to share a lot of tutorial information. So happy to be here with you and with my good colleague, Prasanth. Prasanth, will you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Maren. I don't have as nice earrings that are scratch aligned as Maren does, but I'm Prasanth. I'm from Bangalore, India. It's just past 8:30 p.m. here, and at Scratch, I'm looking at a lot of things around the Scratch Education Collaborative, mostly in the Asia Pacific and Africa regions. And again, helping us out in the chat today, we have JC, who's our Senior Manager of Creative Learning. We have Dr. Jarvis Bailey, who is our Senior Manager of Program Operations. And we also have Kim, who's our SEC Outreach and Engagement Manager. And yeah, very, very excited. My Scratch ID is Zip Zap Zuko. If you want to go and check it out, I don't have much up there to view, unfortunately. So yeah, really excited, and I think we're good to get started. So starting us off, I think this is broadly our agenda for today. We're going to start off with a little bit of exploring creative learning with Scratch, then do our unplugged activity, jump into making connections, then actually get into some of our turtle graphics. You'll learn more as you come across it. Then we're going to dive into debugging, reflection, and eventually spend some time, just thinking about all the different resources that we've put together for you. Yeah, so a few broad things is one, it's an abbreviated session version of a 1-hour workshop. Two is, we're going to explore, experiment a lot. So please be free to fail and try and, just do a bunch of things. And finally, this is just an example timing. This whole workshop is for 60 minutes. But really, when you do it, we ask you to contextualize it for your own, particular community that you're teaching. So it could be 2 sessions, 3 sessions, whatever. But really, this 60-minute is just an example to get started. And some of the objectives for our session today is, you don't need to be an expert in paper plane folding or drawing. It's really for you to learn and debug alongside all of our wonderful attendees from every part of the world. So just to sort of walk you through these objectives very quickly, analyzing a task and determining how to break it up. So a little bit of decomposition, articulating the significance of details and sequences, then getting into evaluating problems, identifying bugs, a little bit of debugging, iterating, some time around expressing creativity and individuality within the context of a very structured activity. Finally, reflecting on the design process individually and communicating and sharing projects with their peers, right? So this is some of the different objectives we have lined up today, and I'm going to I think before we do fully dive in, we could spend some time just thinking about what is creative learning, what does it mean for us. And so before we dive into any of that, here's a kind of brief history story of Scratch, right? So at the Scratch Foundation, we increase access to creative coding opportunities for young people in traditionally underrepresented communities by offering free online and offline software. And we partner with over 175 educational organizations in 40 countries to support creative coding in local contexts, giving young people the creative confidence to change the world. And everything we do helps young people develop essential 21st century skills and, to become digital creators, storytellers, programmers, and more. Since Scratch's launch in 2007 at the Lifelong Kindergarten group at the MIT Media Lab, more than 100 million young people from every country have created over 1 billion projects. In 2019, we spun off into our own 501c3, and we remain 100% philanthropically supported. By our 20th anniversary, which is just around the corner in 2027, the next 100 million children will have become members of our creative learning movement. So, yeah, thank you for being a part of this movement and joining us to learn more about it. So we'll, we've all seen a little bit about Scratch, and often you hear the words that go along with it is block-based programming. And yeah, it's those Scratch blocks, right? So Scratch pioneered block-based programming, enabling young people to learn to code creatively and interactively. Scratch software is deliberately designed to allow those with no previous coding experience to write programs through a lot of playful tinkering, playful experimentation. And with Scratch, young people make animations, games, digital stories, dragging and dropping code blocks. And creating these projects fosters development of some really important skills like computational thinking, creative thinking. And we believe that these are very essential for children to succeed in their lives and in their careers. And in particular, we're very excited about some skills like identifying problems, breaking them into smaller parts, debugging and iterating on solutions. And so, yeah, on the Scratch and Scratch Junior platforms, young people often, create projects about things that relate to their passions and interests. They use the project to engage in a lot of playful exploration. They share their ideas and their learning with their peers in the classroom, right, in their communities. And that's kind of how they try and make a difference around the world. So very quickly, we have 3 broad platforms. The Scratch Junior, that's for ages 5 to 7. The Scratch itself, which comes with an online coding community, and that's aimed at ages 8 and older. We also have an offline Scratch editor for places where there's limited community. And we have Scratch Lab, our innovation playground, where the Scratch team shares their experiments with new coding blocks. So before we do kind of, dive into hands-on building, I'm going to sort of, take a little bit more time talking about our Scratch learning philosophy, right? And at the foundation, we design and create products and programs that support children in the ages of 5 to 16 to develop their thinking, their voice, and their identity. So when we say thinking, these are skills that include tinkering, problem solving, hypothesizing, testing, iterating, perspective taking, reflection, and a whole lot of these skills. By voice, we mean the development of a personal and external self-expression, and the ability to communicate with others appropriately in digital and public spaces. And this is so important, as we see more children engaging with the online world at younger and younger ages. And by identity, we mean the pursuit and development of personal interests, participating in affinity groups, a growing sense of self-awareness and acceptance, and an increase in their self-efficacy over time. So when we say creative learning, often, people take different meanings out of it. We're just trying to come to a shared understanding of what we mean by creative learning. So at the foundation, we see creative learning as an iterative process of imagining, creating, playing, sharing, and reflecting. The creative learning process is grounded in sharing, collaborating, and reflecting on ideas with others in order to generate allyship, inspiration, and meaningful personal connections. As facilitators, we want to support playful learning and values around the tinkering mindset, so that participants can engage playfully in projects that are meaningful to them and elicit the 4 P's, which we will get into over the course of today. We want where they collaborate with peers to experiment, share, and celebrate ideas, where they develop a mindset that is comfortable with the discomfort of getting stuck, where they develop a mindset that thinks critically about strategies for getting unstuck. So saving some space for the process to start again, or help them imagine what's next. And we are learners just as much as our students. So we want to make sure that you are also giving yourself space. We are giving ourselves space and grace when we're working on our creative work. And yeah, so over the course of our workshop today, it's okay if you get stuck, if you feel uncomfortable, that's part of the process. You can reach out through the chat section, drop us a question, reach out to any of us on any of these platforms, and we're happy to kind of work together to the next step, right? And this is something a lot of us would have seen before. We call it the creative learning spiral. It's a framework for how to embed creative learning in a learning environment. So we have sort of 5 steps, and either less steps and more like as points in a spiral. So you imagine, create, play, share, and reflect, and then kind of get back to that whole process of imagine, create, play, share, reflect. As young people create with Scratch, they engage in what we refer to as this creative learning spiral. They imagine what they want to do. They create a project based on their ideas. They play with their creations. They share their ideas and creations with others, reflect on these experiences. And all of this leads them to imagine new ideas and new projects and new avenues. Our role as creative learning facilitators is to help just guide this process and help them go through this and develop as creative thinkers. So when we say 4 Ps, there's a lot, and of course we're sort of sharing the slides. Kim has already put the link there for you to get into it in more detail. But these 4 Ps of creative learning are based on sort of their 4 guiding principles of creative learning, of computational fluency. Their projects, passions, peers, and play. And in a world that is changing more quickly than ever before, this is extremely important for children, considering it enables them to be more innovative, right? So very quickly, projects, when we say projects, it's that people learn best when they're actively working on meaningful projects, coming up with new ideas, prototypes, refining. Peers, which is learning, flourishes as a social activity with people sharing ideas, collaborating on projects, and building on one another's work. Passion, when people work on projects they care about, they work longer, they work harder, they persist in the face of challenges, and they learn so much through that process. And finally, play. Learning involves a lot of playful experimentation, trying new things, tinkering with new materials, testing the boundaries of their work, taking a lot of risks, failing, iterating again and again. So we recommend you read a resource called Coding at a Crossroads for greater understanding of this framework. It will be available in the slides if you want to refer to it later. And we also have some more sort of broader guiding principles, and we use this in all of our work, which is low floors, wide walls, and high ceilings. So when we say that, this is kind of, it stems from the work by Seymour Papert, a mathematician and a computer scientist and an educator. And when he sort of said, low floor, it's making it easy for anyone to get started. And he says wide walls, it appeals to a wide range of interests and passions. When you say high ceilings, it provides scaffolding for an extensible experience. So, some of those kids in our learning spaces who just have the energy and ability to do so much, allowing them to go as far as possible, right? And in fact, Mitch Resnick, who's our professor of learning research at the Media Lab and director of the Lifelong Kindergarten Group, he made a point that it's not enough to provide just a single path from low floor to high ceiling. So providing a wide diversity of projects, wide wall, so that kids can explore multiple pathways from floor to ceiling. Again, for this, you can read another longer document called Designing for Wide Walls. And again, this is available in the slides if you want to refer to it further. So yeah, after that marathon sprint, I'm going to kind of hand it off to Maren for a bit.
Thank you, Prasanth. That was all really great information. And I apologize that I coughed there at one point. We wanted to get some expectations set for this workshop, because part of the workshop really is intentionally that we are going to introduce some frustration. You are intentionally going to get stuck, because what we want to help our learners and you experience here is this need to problem solve. And so this getting stuck is intentionally part of the activity. Another part of the activity is really variation and reflection. We want to explore that there is not just one way of getting something done, and we want to sort of reflect on the process. So, for instance, we're having intentionally vague directions. We're not going to provide visual clues. because when you are coding in Scratch, you can't provide Scratch with a visual reference, right? You need to provide these written code blocks. So we want to have this dialogue about the importance of clear and detailed instructions in the proper order. By having these moments of frustration, our learners and ourselves get to really reflect on this additional knowledge maybe they had to bring in, and then understand why they needed to build that into their instructions in order for the computer to program what they expected. They have to think about what are key details. And so we're really challenging them to break things down in a very clear, very detailed way. And so decomposition and sequence are important here. The computer can only perform the actions that you code. And so these are just things to keep in mind, that when you are doing this activity with your learners, expect a little like moments of needing some grit and grace, right? Getting frustrated, and then figuring out how to get unstuck. And also we want to celebrate this culture of getting unstuck by having a growth mindset and celebrating variety. So, as you are working on this activity, maybe you have failed, which I love, the first attempt in learning. Did you, forget to use a specific block? Did you try different blocks than what we've suggested? Did your shape look different than neighbor? This is an opportunity to talk about it and reflect on it. And I think one of the most powerful things I've learned over time is that as a facilitator, modeling that getting stuck and maybe not having all the answers right away is really powerful, because you can debug and iterate along with your learners and participate in that play and tinkering. And you're really modeling not having that expectation of being perfect straight out the gate, right? That it can take time sometimes and a couple of different iterations to get to your final product. And that's great. It really isn't about what is created out of this lesson. I mean, hopefully you'll get a paper plane and maybe a shape, but really what we're focused on in this lesson is that internal reflection, is that thinking about decomposition and sequencing, and realizing that there's no one right answer or solution. Prasanth's code could look different than my code, could look different than JC's code, but yet we've all made a square, or we've all made a paper plane. And so we can talk about maybe why some were more effective than others, and that can be a good reflection point, but we all created something. And so it's the process that we want to focus on today. So now that we're all ready to get stuck and embrace the intentional vagueness, I'm going to pass it back to Prasanth to help us make a paper plane. Hopefully you all have a piece of paper handy. Any size, any condition will do, right, Prasanth?
Yep. And yeah, I'm happy I get to do this part of the session. So yeah, we're all going to make a paper plane, and I think material needed is a piece of paper. We're deliberately not going to give you more clarifying questions for a bit. So whatever instructions are available, those are just that. Again, a lot of it is vague: the size of the paper, the condition of the paper, and we can think about some of these things later. So we're just going to read out these instructions and then try to fly your plane. So one, fold the paper in half, then unfold, and then actually maybe I'll give you a minute before I dive on to the next instruction. But yeah, just fold your paper in half. Once you have folded it, I'm also doing it so we are at the same pace, hopefully. Fold the unfold, and then fold the top two corners to touch the center line. Then repeat step one and fold the paper in half again. Finally, fold the edges downward to meet the bottom edge. And yeah, try flying your plane wherever you are. Try and toss it. And yeah, I see Marin's plane flying. Mine is not at all like a plane, so it's crashing.
I feel like flying is generous. Yeah, I don't know that I'm getting much lift here.
Um, so yeah, I think you've all sort of got a hang of just trying to build and fly a plane. So a very simple algorithm. In a sense, someone's mentioned that it's a great algorithm, right? So yeah, imagining that the facilitator, web programmer, and the learners are computers. So this is kind of the steps that you go through. And ideally, don't show what you've made to your students, that you just let them come up with really cool creations. So possibly what we could do is now kind of think about what were our results.
Prashant, I'm wondering, can we did JC or Jarvis, did any of you make a plane? You want to pop yourselves onto the stage, and I'll hold mine up so people can see I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second.
I did.
So people can see us.
I think I folded weird today. I don't know what happened. Jarvis, how did you do? Oh, Jarvis has a design going on there.
Love it.
I haven't tested out if I can fly it yet, so I'll do that live.
Give it a whirl. That seemed decent. Mine kind of went in a circle. Some people didn't get a plane at all, they say.
Medium success for me and my weirdly sideways folded plane.
It looks kind of stealth. It looks like one of those stealth planes.
It is. It's a stealth. It's a stealth
plane.
Fancy. You got it. All right.
Thank you, you guys.
Thank you. So yeah, now we're gonna just sort of think a little bit about what were the results, right? Did anyone need to rely on any additional knowledge that you didn't know? It was a vague instruction, right? I had to, because I think I folded something the wrong way, or I don't know, the right way, or whatever, right? But it's kind of not really a plane. And I think that there are some broad similarities when we look at all the planes across that we just saw, Maren's and JC's and Jarvis's and mine, and of course all of yours around the world. But it's a great way to use that to talk about different things, and asking kids if they had fun, was it engaging, right? So if there's a lot of reflection, then that's really what success looks like. So here I think you can see some images of just different kinds of planes that when we ran this activity we saw, where in one case the learner kind of folded it half along the short side, in another they folded it along the longer side. In one more, they folded in the corners only slightly. Because of that, the nose was slightly different. So a lot of differences, a lot of variations. And I think that's something that we are trying to actively encourage, right? We want a lot of variation. We want a lot of differences. And we also want kids to think about all of those differences and variations. And the learners come into these activity with some pre-knowledge. I'm sure they've made paper planes before. Someone's taught them, or they've seen it somewhere. And so that, again, makes for a great reflection point, saying I filled in the blanks with my own information. And yeah, so the sort of key point for us that we want to drive is that the final project are not all meant to look the same. They're not all meant to look alike. So there's no one project, one Scratch project that you're making, and all of them should look exactly the same. There can be many, different variations, many valid solutions, right? So these are kind of 3 examples of ways participants can expand the scope of this activity. So in the first option, really think of a simple activity you know how to do well, kicking a ball or making some food or going through a morning routine, and then write out the steps to describe it to a computer. And then you can share these steps with a peer in a small group or with the class and determine if they're ordered correctly. Do they have all the information? I think there's a fun set of videos online of making a peanut butter sandwich, and the kids sort of are explaining to their parent on how to do it, and they miss out a lot of key steps while they're doing it. So it's fun to think about that. Another option is writing a message on your paper before folding it. So what kind of message do you want to share to the world, to your classmates, to your future self? So that could be one direction of taking this activity. Option 3 is personalizing it. So I think Jarvis kind of also colored it in really cool ways, right? So thinking about, what else you could add, your name, different characters, etc. So yeah, and each of these would require different materials and different things for you to plan, but they're all highly customizable to your particular context as a facilitator, right? And so once we do this, I think a very crucial point for us is debugging, and really thinking about, does your plane fly? How far does it fly? Or, what was the flight path? Some went straight, some went in a curly way. And then can you debug some of those issues, right? Maybe the instructions have to be written differently, or maybe you have to be more observant before you write the instructions. Yeah, lots of room to think about it. And then more questions, which is, does the size of the paper matter, or, any number of these questions. A lot of like experimentation, really, trying different things out. So you can also just put down in the comments any other questions that came to your mind. Again, more reflection questions for you, and whatever you can put down, which is, does your plane look like the others in the room? Do you interpret one or more instructions differently? Why might the instructions have been understood differently? Did anyone need to rely on additional knowledge? What was fun about this activity? At the end of the day, what was really exciting? Where did you struggle? Where did you get stuck? I think someone put on the comment in the chat that it didn't fly. I mean that it means it's probably not a plane, right? So there's some thinking to do on why it didn't fly or whatever. And again, if you wrote a message, why did you write that message? What did you write? So yeah, please feel free to put any of your reflections in the chat. We'd love to understand more.
So now we're going to take this thinking mindset that we've developed while working on the paper plane, and we're going to transition this into Scratch. And what we're going to try in Scratch is to make a turtle graphic. Why? Not just because I love and I'm obsessed with turtle graphics, but turtle graphics are really neat because if you're not familiar with them, they are named after a class of the educational turtle-like robots, and they had a pen mechanism. So you could have the cursor, the turtle, which in our case in Scratch will be a Scratch sprite, and it can draw on a plane. So that could be a piece of paper when you were using the physical robot, but in Scratch, we're drawing on the Scratch stage. Turtle graphics are neat because they employ a lot of geometry concepts. They focus on direction, location, repetition, looping. So there's a lot of really great curriculum connections here. But the other thing that I love about this is that with the paper plane, we have this physical artifact, right? We could look at this, we could observe sort of maybe what went wrong as we're debugging and iterating and figuring out how to rework it. And turtle graphics give us the same opportunity. They create this physical artifact, visual artifact, and we can follow the lines to sort of see where the code went wrong, where our thing maybe went off path. And that helps us more easily sometimes identify and debug. Sometimes when you're watching a sequence quickly in Scratch, it can be hard to sort of break down the moment where things didn't go right. And so by having it move slowly and have this visual path we can follow, we can maybe more easily break something down into these smaller parts. Just like we did with the paper plane, where you had these written or verbal instructions and no other visual references, Scratch programs, the computer has the same problem, right? You're not giving it a visual, you're writing these in code blocks. So we have to think about that decomposition and sequencing and being clear. And so again, we're replicating this, what we did in our unplugged activity here in our virtual space. So let's get into it. If you have not opened Scratch in a new tab, feel free to do so. I'm going to show you a couple things here on the slide, and then I will move to Scratch and we will sort of do this together. No pressure, right? So what you can do when you get into Scratch is really pick any sprite to act as your turtle. So any sprite is going to sort of do the drawing on the stage. Can you believe there's no turtle in Scratch? We'll talk about that. That's the way you can personalize this later. So sorry for those of you looking for an actual turtle sprite, but you can pick any sprite that you like. And then we're going to add the pen extension. Again, when we get into the Scratch environment, I will show you this live. But if you're looking for it right now, it's in that lower left-hand corner in that purple box. And when you click on it, our extension menu opens up and you should see pen. The other thing that we're going to do is sometimes it can be helpful to give them a little starter script, just so that if our turtle ends up drawing way off the stage, they can get it back. Depending on how familiar your learners are with Scratch, maybe they need the starter script, maybe they don't. But just in case, I kind of always love to start with the script of when the green flag is clicked, go back to the center point on the stage. That way, if they get a little too far afield, we can get it back and we can focus on drawing again and again. The other thing I'm going to have you do as sort of prep work before we start drawing is pick a shape. I've suggested some shapes here on the slide, and notice that they're very simple shapes. We can get into more complex shapes eventually, but I find it's helpful to start with sort of a simple shape. So I ask maybe to pick from one of these shapes here on the screen, and then make some observations. So are the sides the same length, or are they a different length? Are the angles the same, or are they different? Are there any points where you might be repeating similar steps over and over? So it's worth taking just a couple minutes with your learners to sort of decompose this shape and make some observations about it. Of course, with our limited time here, I'm going to move us along a little bit faster than I would in a classroom. But what I'm going to suggest here is we start with a certain smaller set of blocks and focus on these really simple shapes. Of course, if you have more experienced learners and more advanced users, they may want to use additional blocks. And so you really know your classroom best and your learners best about what their experience level is. But I find starting with just these few motion blocks and pen blocks and a weight block is enough to be able to produce any of these shapes, and maybe makes the activity a little more approachable. If you have not covered angles, that could also be a handy thing to talk about briefly. So you see I've shown some angles here. And what we can do within these blocks is really play with things like the values, the distances, the degrees that they're turning, and then figure out how to make these shapes. And just keeping in mind as we're doing this, that there is often more than one solution here. I will point out, as I move away from these slides for a second, that and I open up Scratch, this is all in the lesson plan that we are giving you. And so if you need to refer back to this, you absolutely can. Let me just share my Scratch screen here. And so I'm just going to walk through this with you. So here, when you get into Scratch, you may want to log in, and then you can hit Create. That'll bring you into our Scratch window. As a nice reminder of a couple of things, I love under Settings that you can change the block language if you need to personalize that for your learners, and also the color mode. I personally love using the high contrast mode. That's new. And I find it to be easier for some students to read and for demonstration purposes. So I've got it on high contrast. And I'm just going to drag a couple of blocks out onto my stage. And as I do this, this little plus, you know, my eyes in the morning, they need a little more help. So I'm going to zoom in a bit more so we can see these blocks well. I'm going to go to my events, and I'm going to set up that simple starter script that I suggested, which is when the green flag is clicked, go to the center point. I'm going to go down here to that purple box, and I'm going to add my pen extension. And so now you see I've got this new set of blocks that's available to me here, all about the pen in Scratch. I'm just going to take note of the time. Okay, excellent. So now I'm going to start drawing. So the first thing that I need to do is sort of really look through my blocks and think about what I want to do. I, notice pen color. Maybe that's exciting to me, and I'm gonna pick a pen color. That's fine if that's what they want to do. I might change the pen size. What does this do? I might set this as a number, and then I'm gonna say, let's move 100 steps. Let's see what happens. Yeah, no line. What happened here? This is the first perfect moment for some debugging and for getting unstuck. Now, normally I would let my learners, I already see some people knowing it. Excellent, excellent. I would normally let my learners sort of wiggle with this a little bit because we are sort of on a time, shortened time. I'm going to go with the suggestions in the chat. Thank you very much. And I'm going to look for this pen down. Now, one of the key things here is the way that I like to frame this is when I am trying to think about how to decompose and where to put this block, think about actually using a pen or a pencil. Like you might have them grasp one in their hand. I'm going to write on my poor plane here. But if I'm thinking about it, when I start to draw, if I never put my pen to the paper, I'm drawing in the air and you're not seeing anything, right? So I need to put the pen down onto the paper first, right? Before I do anything, if I want to record my lines. So with that in mind, yeah, I'm going to put the pen down maybe up here before I start moving. And so now I'm going to click my green flag again. And I've got a line. Excellent. And now I've sort of had my first moment of thinking through, really breaking these steps down into smaller steps and really giving a lot of thought to what I am doing, because the computer's not going to make any assumptions, right? The program's not going to automatically know to put the pen down or put the pen up. So we have to be really, really clear. So now that I've moved these steps, maybe I'm drawing a square. So I'm going to go back up to my motion blocks and I might find a block like point in direction. And I'm going to just keep adding to my script here. Let's move another, whoop, I think I clicked the button. Let's move another, I'm going to put in 200 this time. What happened? That doesn't seem promising, right? Well, I forgot to change my direction here, right? Okay. So I'm slowly thinking through, what do I want to do? Well, let's give this a try. Let me change my direction here. Now what happens? Okay. So my it's looking like a T. and somebody pointed out, thank you for that, in the chat, exactly, erase all. See, you guys are anticipating. And here's the thing. I, as a facilitator, may know that I need to use these blocks, right? Erase all or pen down. But part of what I'm trying to model here for my learners, in this case, you all who are so smart, is the need to use these blocks, right? So I am purposefully introducing sometimes some mistakes and some opportunities to debug and learn with my learners instead of automatically sort of giving them the answers, right? Because it's a really powerful thing when they can discover this for themselves. And so now they're saying, like, why are my old lines on the stage? Well, let's look through the pen blocks. Do you see anything that you could use? And as my wonderful helpers have pointed out, thank you very much, erase all. Where do we want to put it though, right? Again, we have to think about, when would we want to erase? At the end? At the beginning? Let's try adding it to the end and seeing what happens. Not helpful, right? Right? Because it erased it after everything was drawn. So now I'm thinking about my debugging. I'm going to put it at the beginning. Let's try that. So now I'm starting to get closer. Now I realize maybe I need to put some directions about which to start off with. Maybe I'm noticing that my move steps are different lengths, and so I want to adjust that. So I'm getting closer. That pen size is really thick. I'm going to shrink it down so I can really see what's going on. Oops. And there's a mistake that I unintentionally made, but if you caught it there, look at that. I said change pen size by 2. I accidentally made the pen size even larger when I was trying to make it smaller, because now it's size 12, because I'd started at 10, change it by 2. What I wanted was not change the pen size, but set the pen size, right, to 2. So again, sometimes you just stumble into debugging moments, which I love. Voila, now I'm getting closer to what I want. And this has been, a challenge for me, right? But it's also been fun. And one of the things I love about the chat, and thank you for you guys modeling this unintentionally, was this opportunity to pair program. So here we have been doing a little pair programming. I'm getting stuck. You all are helping me in the chat, providing some suggested blocks to try. I'm putting them in and I'm giving them a shot. This could be a really nice opportunity to employ some pair programming in your class, either in small groups or in pairs. And so you can really have the opportunity to have multiple people coming at this with their different perspectives. Great question also in the chat. Can we reduce the speed of the pen? Love it. Thank you for that. So I don't see a block here, right, that talks about pen speed, unfortunately. But this is where, if I go under the control category, I'm going to use one of those weight blocks, which is one of the suggested sort of blocks that we could use. And one thing I love to do as I am programming is put a bunch of weights in kind of between my steps when I'm starting. So I'm going to reduce the size of this just a little bit so we can see what I'm doing here. And so now if I put in some weight blocks, let's see what happens. So first turns, moves, turns, moves. So while I can't adjust the speed of how fast the Scratch Cat goes with a speed block, I can introduce weights. The other thing I could do if I really wanted to slow it down would be to try something like, instead of move 100 steps all at once, maybe my, more advanced learners are familiar with repeat blocks. And so maybe I'm going to repeat moving, see if I can do math, 5 steps 20 times, because that gets me to 100 steps. And so if I try that, you'll notice now it's going to kind of slow it down a little bit, right? So again, this is a different way of writing this program. It's achieved the same result. This one used some repeat, the other one didn't. And so this is a way that we can see that there is variety here to, and somebody already got my repeat, or was already on it before I even said it. Nice. So this is a great way of showing that there's a variety of solutions to get to the same result. And I think that that's really awesome and amazing and empowering. If you have created some things, I would love, along with me, I would love for you to feel free to put them into the chat. I'm going to pop back into the slides for the sake of time, but if you guys pop some stuff into the chat, I would love to be able to show some stuff on the screen. And yes, exactly. We're talking math now, and depending on your learners, how complex it can get. Someone mentioned in the chat, trigonometry, controlling X and Y, math. It's amazing how simple this activity can be, and then how complex it can become. And Prasanth will get into a little bit of that too, as we're talking about how to extend the activity later. I just am going to pop back into my slides. And whoops, too many things. So yes, if you have a project that you've been working on, hit that share button and feel free to share the link with us in the chat. That will be great, and we'd love to see them. I am going to show you, though, just some examples of results of very similar kind of shapes, but completely different lines of code. And so here I've drawn a square, and a couple of my colleagues have drawn squares or square-ish things. And notice that our code varies dramatically, right? So one code program uses specific degrees. When you look at the Turtles program, that one is really general. Instead of turning to a specific degree, we're turning a certain number of degrees. Now we're getting a little bit more general. If we were maybe to put this into a loop at some point, maybe being more general would be more helpful. The next one is really advanced, right? We're bypassing angles completely, and we're using change X and change Y. So there's no angles involved in this particular one. And then the one on the far right, I love so much, because this is really an example of, yeah, there's some extraneous blocks in here. Maybe it could be pared down in the next iteration, but they're trying things, right? They're figuring it out. They're working in weights. They're working in some different angles and turns. And so this is a great opportunity to now iterate. And in the next pass, what could we remove? What's worth keeping, right? What keeps the integrity of the shape, but maybe uses a few less blocks of code. And so these are opportunities to have that variety, to have that difference, and to celebrate that, right? Because they all created a shape, and it's about the process versus being about the thing. And then we have really some opportunity for creative expression, even within this, right? And so once you draw the shape, maybe you try a different shape. Now, challenge yourself, try a different one, maybe one that's more complex, like an octagon or something, or a hexagon. You could customize the shape. We can look in the block category and see blocks about pen size and pen color. How could you maybe change the color in between each stroke, right? We could also create a paper plane or a turtle sprite. Those do not exist currently in the sprite editor. So try to draw a turtle as your sprite that can do the drawing, right? And so there's, oh, did I just, I'm sorry. If I haven't been translated, I apologize. My phone rang and it looks like that was what was doing the audio translation. Okay, so hopefully I'm back on and being translated now in the sidebar. Apologies for that. So again, try to draw a sprite, try to customize the blocks. And then I'll just quickly show, we will give you these slides. And so you will be able to see these after the presentation. But let's think about what kind of shapes came out. Did it come out as expected? How do you slow down the action, right? That was one of the questions. How can you use a wait block? What about sequential order? We sort of show the difference when we're moving things at the bottom of the script or at the top of the script. So these are all opportunities to debug and reflect. And often it can be really helpful to do as a classroom or in pairs, have two coders talk to each other. Did you make the same shape? How were your programs similar and how were they different? And why did you make the choices that you did, right? Sometimes that can be really eye-opening. And so as we're looking through the code, all these things, all these questions are really important. But I think the other important thing to ask is, what was fun about this activity, right? And what struggles or frustrations did you have during the activity? How did you get stuck and unstuck? Because I think that's also a really powerful learning opportunity in this. Again, it's more about the process than the thing. So learning how folks figured out how to get unstuck is just as valuable as being able to create a shape in this activity. And so maybe somebody had tips about using the wait block, or somebody had tips about asking a neighbor for assistance, or maybe somebody was like, when I read through the code out loud, kind of quietly to myself, I found my mistake because speaking it out loud made me realize I forgot to say, put the pen down on the paper, or, what have you. And so, even just trying to replicate drawing the shape physically with a pencil on the paper and really talking out, what did I just do there? What did I just do there? Did I turn my hand? Did I move? Did I put the pen on the paper? Did I lift the pen up? Did I erase? That can be really helpful for them as they're working through and trying to figure out how to debug. Awesome. I'm seeing some things coming through. I'll try to share a couple really nice projects really quick. Let's see. I'm going to stop sharing and go back to my Scratch window. And let's see if I can. You're doing this live. A lot of pressure here. Let's see. Let's load up a couple of these projects. Excellent. I'm going to hit the green flag. Oops. Let me see inside. Oh, Sprite is clicked. See, this is also great. And a really handy thing. One thing I always love to note in the project instructions is how to run the project. And so now I've peeked inside. Ooh! And I can see when I click on this sprite, it draws this really cute, it almost kind of reminds me of a domino. Now I want to play dominoes. Excellent. Really love it. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to try to grab another one here and see what we get. It's going to load up here. Oh, is this drawing? Is this a pen project? Oh, this is something else. Okay. I'm going to try to find a pen project really quickly. Oh, here's a great one. Let's see. Try this one. Oh, okay. This is looking. Oh, Jamaica with a pen remix. I'm curious. Press the green flag. Oh, this is so satisfying. Look at that. And now I'm so curious what we're creating. Oh, we're creating the island of Jamaica. Is that what we're creating? Oh, this is fun and super complicated. Thank you. My goodness. This is great. Look at that. And this is a great history tie-in, right? We're talking about curriculum connections. This could be a really fun history tie-in here. And so, or geography, we're, drawing world maps. Maybe we're trying to create these countries in pen. Super impressive. I'm going to show one more. Let's see what we get here. Oh, I'm going to peek inside just to see. Oh, I just had to be patient. Patience is not a virtue with me sometimes. Ooh. And I love the turtle sprite that they made. Thank you for making a cute little ombre turtle here with the little legs. I'm digging it. And it's this little zigzag. So cute. And again, what I love about Scratch is that I can always look inside and see the code and see how they did something and then break it apart, decompose. So this could be a part 2 of the activity, right? Grab a neighbor's project who did a different shape than you. See if you can understand how they built this program. Like, see if you can break it down and see what the steps were that they used. Can be really, really valuable. Thank you for that. Okay, I'm going to move things forward just for the sake of time, but I really appreciate all the shares. If you haven't logged into Scratch, just a note here about saving. You can always save your project to your computer and then upload it again later to Scratch to save it onto your account. And of course, we talked about sharing with that big orange share button. You can also always unshare if you'd like later if you go under your projects. But thank you for sharing, those of you who did. And so now let's talk about closing out our lesson. I'll pass it back to Prasanth because I've been doing a lot of talking.
Thank you, Maren. And I love seeing all the creativity. I'm not going to spend too much time on this in the next slide, but really just wanted to note that, this is there for your reference. Just, debugging strategies, different prompts you could try, also different reflection strategies you could try, different prompts, around a reflection on the next slide. So you can experiment with these different options here. And again, please feel free to put some of your reflections in the chat. And, again, more resources are available. So please go into the slides. I think something we're really excited to talk about is extending this lesson, which is sure with sort of the low floor is, getting onto this, and then the wide walls being that you could bring in, your love for Jamaica or any number of different, the turtles and all of that stuff into your projects. But in the spirit of sort of high ceilings, we think you could extend the lesson a lot and go deeper into loops, very complex shapes, different styles, maybe even connecting it to a makey, and then just trying different things out, right? So on the next slide, we have, a really interesting image for you, which is to think about all the endless possibilities with just a simple activity like, starting, like making a paper plane. So imagine that you could start with something as, low floor as making a paper plane. Then you could get them into, a little bit of introduction to Scratch. And then you can start getting deeper into, let's say, sprites where you're customizing appearances, or you're getting into loops to try different repeated actions for the plane, maybe different events, interactions with the plane, it flies in a different way, or, there are different, actions for it to start. Maybe even like some conditional thinking, decision making for the plane, which is if it crosses a certain distance, there's a sound, or, if it touches the edge, it restarts the flight. And then you could get into more advanced projects for each of these, right? So it could be a contest around designing planes, endless flight games, interactive flight shows. So there's a lot that you can do. And these are just examples of possible directions and high ceilings, even with the small, simple activity to start with, right? So moving on, I think really what we want to ask you to do very importantly is to localize it. And because this particular lesson focuses on paper plane and turtle graphics, and we love the example of Jamaica, you can just apply them to other activities similarly like that, which are of interest to your learner, right? So for example, there's coding a dance, where repeating steps can also lead to a conversation about loops, and that can relate to patterns with turtle graphic shapes. Coding a sandwich, the other participant serves as a robot, and you must follow those instructions exactly. And yeah, a lot of fun when you take the bread out of the bag, or you don't take it out of the bag, right? So facilitators should really be encouraging participants to share ideas of how they might kind of localize some of this. And I think I'd love for even us to ask you, how would you localize some of these activities? You could drop that in the chat. So yeah, handing it back to Maren.
Yeah, thank you. I do want to acknowledge really quickly as we are getting ready to reflect, there were some questions about connecting this to hardware and great suggestions. Thank you, Ali. Makey and Microbit, we do have, if you go under that same extensions menu where you found the pen blocks, you'll see some extensions for Makey and Microbit. And those would be really fun ways to make, if you're not familiar with Makey, definitely check out our website where we have some more information about it. And if we have some time at the end, I could go back into it. But yeah, it's a way to sort of make a physical keyboard out of some things like bananas and other things that can connect electrically, that electrons can flow through to make outside keys, keyboard keys. And Microbit is fun because it can also has a tilt sensor. And so you can employ that maybe. And so definitely a lot of fun things that you can try to make this even a more physical activity. You can go here, as you'll see the link that will be put in the chat, to find a lesson plan associated with this activity. And it has all the details, all the things that we've talked to you about here in the lesson plan. There's a video I have there on YouTube about turtle drawing, if you'd like to use it with your students or just have a refresher. Excuse me. There's also some coding cards, which I really love. We've tried to start doing some coding cards again so that you can print these out or your learners could have them digitally, and they can follow along with some activities involving turtle pen drawing. So definitely check out all the goodies there. I hope you'll love what you find. And there's information also in that resource center. If you type into search for Makey or Microbit, you'll find some additional resources on those there, since we were just chatting about those. Before I leave some time for questions, I think we'll have some more minutes here at the end for some questions. But I do want to point out our Scratch conference is coming up. Prasanth and I are going to be your co-MCs. I'm super excited about this. I am ready and raring to go for this. It's going to be July 24th. And then on July 25th, you'll see we have some opportunities to connect with some of our SEC ecosystem leaders for some special sessions on the following day. This is free. Again, I stress free. And it's a great opportunity to come and hear about a variety of topics from a number of wonderful speakers that we have joining us from all over the globe. And so definitely follow that link in the chat to register for this, and hopefully we'll see you again in just over a month. And then our next SiP session will follow in September. We're going to talk about designing for creative learning, from prototypes to public service announcements. And you'll see our lovely JC and Tracy, I believe, leading that session. And all these events and more will be listed on our website. So if you go to scratch.org/events, you should be able to find information on all of this. I also encourage you to follow this link to sign up for our email if you have not yet, so that you can be in the know and get all the email updates about all the wonderful things that we have coming down the pike here. Thank you so much for joining us. Prasanth and I will hang on another few. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we'll try to see if we got some questions in the chat that we can help answer. But I really, again, thank you so much for participating in the chat. And I loved the peer programming aspect that we just naturally sort of worked our way into. That was really fun. You guys helped us model stuff really well, unbeknownst to you. And really fun pen projects too. I'm going to have to investigate Jamaica more. I'm so curious to see how you did that drawing project and how many code blocks you used there. But really, really fun.
Thank you for staying with us. And I also love that 85, 90 people on the call, the number hasn't gone down over the course of the hour. So I think that's a win.
Yeah. We should say, I guess, I don't think we ever said, I'm joining from the West Coast of the United States, and Prasanth, you're joining in from India.
Yeah.
So I'm in the morning and you're in the evening, right?
Yeah.
So thank you for getting up early and staying up late with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for all the activity and engagement. Also continuously just makes it more exciting for us to facilitate.
Yay. The other thing that I would say, if you also wanted to make it more interactive, is that coding a dance localization option, or other things that sort of get kids moving could be a really fun option for your unplugged. So definitely make it something that where, coding a dance doesn't require any materials at all except for our physical bodies, right? And so we can make that really adaptive to our audience, and a number of really fun ways to keep pressing this topic about decomposition and sequencing. If you look at Scratch Day, type in on our website looking for Scratch Day, you can see Scratch Day events happening all around the globe. While Scratch team members may not be able to attend all of them because there's a lot of really amazing ones, every once in a while we might be able to show up at a few, but even if we can't be there, it's a really great opportunity to, again, connect with a lot of really passionate and amazing educators who put together a wonderful day of plans and activities for kids, for educators. So definitely pop on our website and check out the Scratch Day events happening and see if you can find one near you. And if you're interested in hosting a Scratch Day event, thank you. If you're interested in hosting a Scratch Day event, follow the instructions on the website so you can sort of give us your information about the Scratch Day event you are hosting so that we can include it and let others know that it's happening. Definitely check out all the information there. Oh gosh, that is a wonderful question. I want this. Yes, sort of. So I will say, if you go onto our face sensing, if you look up our face sensing lesson plan or our face sensing video on YouTube, you will see me draw with my nose. I've taken one for the team and embarrassed myself, and I'm drawing with my nose in this video. You can, if you go to the Scratch Lab experimental site, where you can use our face sensing blocks, you can also attach the pen extension, and then yes, you can draw with your face. It's challenging, I will say. I make a really bad smiley face with my nose, but you can do it. and in our face sensing coding cards, I've also got some little instructions about how you can do that. So thank you for asking that. And yes, it is a lot of fun. And thank you for that reminder that we did that. Yes, I love seeing that. Students are motivated when they learn math using Scratch. Yes, I find, when we can add that tinkering and that playful element, it's just so much more engaging, right? And it gets students really interested to learn. And one of the extension activities that we show in our list of things you can do is adding that loop. And so thinking about how you can now, how many degrees are in a circle? So how many degrees do I need to turn how many times in order to make 360 degrees, right? Or people have made some really amazing and complex fractals and all sorts of things using the pen blocks and loops and math. And so definitely, even if you just search up pen projects in Scratch, you can find some really inspiring and amazing examples made by educators and students like yourselves. So thank you for that. And thanks again for being such a great audience today. I haven't even had my coffee yet, Prasanth. This is me pre-coffee. I'm just so excited about turtle drawing. It was one of the first things I did when I learned to code. I still remember doing it on my little, I think it was like on a little Mac, and it was just this little turtle drawing a square, but it felt so crazy to be able to tell the computer something to do and to see the results on the screen. It was really special. So turtle drawings will always have my heart.